Welcome to Still Mind Suttas. In today's episode, we sit with the Mahā Saccaka Sutta, a text that follows the Buddha through challenge, misunderstanding, and the long arc of his path to awakening. This discourse invites us to look closely at how we meet pleasure and pain, and how easily the mind can be pulled off balance. It's a teaching that touches everyday life, the tension we feel at work, the discomfort we avoid, the stories we cling to when things don't go our way. As you listen, I invite you to settle into a slower rhythm and let the story unfold gently. There is no need to grasp at meaning. Simply allow the themes to meet you where you are. In this discourse, the Buddha is staying near the great city of Visal, in the gabled hall within the great forest. Early in the morning, he has put on his robe, taken his bowl, and is preparing to go into the city for alms. Just then, a well-known wandering debater named Saccaka comes walking through the forest to exercise his legs. He is famous for arguing with teachers and trying to expose their weaknesses. Venerable Ananda sees him from a distance and quietly tells the Buddha that Saccaka is intent on criticizing the Buddha, the teaching, and the community of monks. Out of compassion, Ananda asks the Buddha to sit down for a while and meet him, and the Buddha agrees. Saccaka arrives, exchanges polite greetings, and sits to one side. Then he begins his challenge. He says that some spiritual practitioners focus on training the body but neglect the mind. When pain strikes them, they lose control. Their bodies convulse, their minds break, they go mad. Their minds are slaves to the body because they have not developed the mind. Then he says others train only the mind and neglect the body. When mental pain strikes, they too fall apart, crying, overwhelmed, driven out of their senses. Their bodies are slaves to their minds because they have not developed the body. Saccaka then claims that the Buddha's disciples are like this second group, devoted to training the mind, but not developing the body. The Buddha answers calmly. He addresses Saccaka by his clan name, Agavesana, and asks, "What have you learned about developing the body?" Saccaka describes strict ascetics, those who go naked, reject social conventions, refuse food in many situations, limit how many houses they visit, and sometimes eat only once every several days. They avoid meat and alcohol, and they carefully regulate their food intake. This, he says, is development of the body. The Buddha asks simply, do they live only on that? Saccaka admits that they sometimes eat fine foods and delicacies to restore their strength. The Buddha points out that what they cast aside, they later take up again. This is only weakening and strengthening the body, not a noble development. Then the Buddha asks, and what have you learned about the development of the mind? Here Saccaka is silent. He has nothing to say. The Buddha tells him that what he has called development of the body is not recognized as such among noble ones. Since Saccaka does not even understand genuine bodily development, how could he know about development of the mind? Still, out of compassion, the Buddha offers to explain how someone is undeveloped in body and mind, and how someone is developed in both. He says that when an ordinary, untrained person experiences pleasant feeling, they get swept away by it, clinging to the pleasure. When that pleasant feeling passes, painful feeling arises. Then they cry, lament, and are thrown into confusion. Pleasant feeling invades and takes over because the body is undeveloped. Painful feeling invades and takes over because the mind is undeveloped. To be undeveloped in body and mind here means to have no training in how to relate to pleasure and pain with wisdom. By contrast, when a well-trained disciple experiences pleasant feeling, they do not become obsessed with it. When it fades and painful feeling arises, they do not collapse into grief and anguish. Pleasant feeling does not invade and occupy the mind because the body is developed. Painful feeling does not invade and occupy the mind because the mind is developed. To be developed in body and mind is to meet pleasure and pain with deep stability and understanding. Saccaka declares that he now has confidence that the Buddha is developed in both ways. The Buddha replies that this is actually presumptuous, but he will still answer. From the day he went forth from home into homelessness, he says, no pleasant or painful feeling has been able to invade his mind and remain. Saccaka challenges this. Perhaps such strong feelings have simply never arisen for the Buddha. In response, the Buddha tells his own story. He remembers being a young prince, still black-haired, living a luxurious life. The thought arose, household life is cramped and dusty. The life gone forth is wide open. It is not easy to fully live the holy life while living in a house. Despite his parents' tears, he shaved his hair, put on the ochre robe, and left home in search of the highest peace. First, he went to the teacher Alara Kalama. He quickly mastered that teaching and through deep meditation realized the dimension of nothingness, a very refined meditative state. But he saw that this state did not lead to true freedom, only to rebirth in that subtle realm. Dissatisfied, he moved on. Next, he went to Uddaka Ramaputta and mastered the state called neither perception nor non-perception, even more refined than the previous one. Again, he was honored as equal or superior to the teacher. But again, he saw that this did not lead to dispassion, to the ending of suffering, to complete awakening. So he left once more. Still seeking the unsurpassed peace, he came to the forest of Uruvela, a beautiful grove by a clear river with villages nearby for alms. He thought, this is just right for striving, and settled there. 3 images arose in his mind. A wet log lying in water cannot be made to catch fire no matter how hard someone rubs it. So too, a person still drenched in sensual desire, not withdrawn in body or mind, cannot reach awakening, no matter how much pain they endure. A wet log lying on dry land is the same. Even if it's not in the water, its own dampness prevents fire. So too, someone who outwardly gives up sensual pleasures, but still burns with craving inside cannot awaken through painful practices. Only a dry log far from the water can be lit. In the same way, one who has withdrawn from sensual pleasures in body and mind, and whose craving has been stilled, is capable of awakening, even if painful feelings arise in the course of their effort. The Buddha then recounts his own extreme striving. He tried crushing the mind with sheer will, clenching his teeth and forcing attention. He tried holding his breath to the point where his body roared, his head felt split, his belly felt carved open, and his whole body burned. He tried reducing food to almost nothing. His limbs became like sticks, his ribs like rafters, his spine like a bead string. His skin clung to his bones, and his hair fell out at a touch. People could hardly recognize his former golden skin. He reflects, no one in past, present, or future could go further in painful striving than he did. Yet all this torment brought no awakening, no true knowledge. So he asked himself, could there be another path? He remembered an experience from childhood, sitting under the cool shade of a rose apple tree while his father worked. Quite naturally, his mind had entered a deep, joyful calm. The first jhana, a state of meditative absorption, born of seclusion and free from sensuality. He wondered, could that be the path to awakening? Why am I afraid of this kind of pure, harmless pleasure? He realized there was no reason to fear it, but with his body so weakened, he could not enter that state. So he decided to take proper food again. When he did, the 5 ascetics who had been attending him were disgusted. They thought he had given up and turned to luxury, and they abandoned him. Regaining his strength, the Buddha entered the jhanas step by step. Each is a deeper level of stillness and clarity, moving beyond coarse thought, beyond even rapture, into stable equanimity and pure mindfulness. From this concentrated mind, he directed his awareness to three great knowledges in the three watches of the night. First, he recollected countless past lives in detail. Second, he saw with a purified divine eye the passing away and reappearance of beings according to their karma, their intentional actions of body, speech, and mind. Third, he saw directly the truth of suffering, its cause, its end, and the path that leads to its end. He saw the arising and ending of the deep effluents, asava, that flow out as craving, becoming, and ignorance. He realized complete release and knew, birth is ended, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done is done. Back in the present, the Buddha explains to Saccaka what it really means to be deluded or undiluted. It does not depend on whether one lies down to sleep in the heat of the day. Someone is deluded if the effluents that lead to future birth, aging, and death are still present and not abandoned. Someone is undiluted if those effluents have been cut off at the root, like a palm tree that can never grow again. In the Buddha, these have been fully destroyed. Saccaka is struck by this. He remembers other famous teachers who became irritated and evasive when challenged. But when he has attacked the Buddha with harsh and presumptuous speech, the Buddha's face actually becomes clearer and more radiant. Saccaka acknowledges this difference and leaves, delighted with the teaching. For our own practice, this discourse points us again and again to one simple question: how do we relate to pleasure and pain? Most of us are like the run-of-the-mill person the Buddha describes. When something feels good, we cling. When it feels bad, we fall apart. The Buddha shows another possibility: to train both body and mind so that feeling arises and passes without invading the heart. We also see the danger of extremes. The Buddha tried refined meditation without wisdom and harsh self-torture without balance. Neither brought awakening. Only when he remembered a wholesome, quiet joy, the first jhana, and allowed himself to walk the middle path did insight open fully. In daily life, this means we do not have to fear every pleasant experience, nor chase pain as if it guaranteed purity. Instead, we cultivate steady attention, ethical conduct, and a mind that can be deeply peaceful without clinging. Finally, the Buddha's story reminds us that real awakening is not just a special state in meditation. It is the ending of the deep outflows of greed, aversion, and ignorance. Even if we are far from that goal, we can take a small step in the same direction whenever we meet our experience, pleasant or painful, with clear knowing, gentle curiosity, and a willingness to let go. Thank you for listening. The heart of this sutta rests in a simple, steady truth. Freedom begins when we stop being pushed around by pleasure and pain. The Buddha's journey reminds us that forcing, striving, or denying our humanity doesn't bring clarity, and that calm, grounded awareness can grow even in the middle of difficulty. As you move through your day, you might notice small moments when a feeling tries to take over: a flash of irritation, a brief delight, a subtle worry. See if you can meet it with a little more space, a little less tightening. If reflections like these support you, you're welcome to return here for more suttas and quiet study. And if you wish, you can subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. May this teaching guide you towards steadiness, gentleness, and a mind that knows how to rest.